Crazy people attract me. They live in a strange world of weird dreams. For them, nothing is impossible or unlikely. Fairy tales are always real and magic is normal. In their wild imagination, they become princes, emperors, or gods, with all the wealth and pleasures of the world. They are always strong, beautiful, young, and loved. Similarly, thinking about the minds of crazy people is useless, because their weird ideas are just normal ideas that seem strange because they are not controlled by reason. Their surprising thoughts come from a hidden source. One day, while I was visiting one of the hospitals for crazy people, the doctor who was showing me around said, "Come, I will show you an interesting case." He opened the door of a small room where a woman around 40 years old, still pretty, was sitting in a big chair, looking closely at her face in a small hand mirror. When she saw us, she stood up quickly, ran to the other side of the room, picked up a veil from a chair, wrapped it carefully around her face, and then came back, nodding her head to say hello. "Well," said the doctor, "how are you this morning?" She sighed deeply. "Oh, I am very sick, sir, very sick. The marks are getting worse every day." He replied confidently, "Oh no, I assure you that you are wrong." She came closer to him and whispered, "No, I am sure of it. I counted 10 more marks this morning. 3 on my right cheek, 4 on my left cheek, and 3 on my forehead. It is terrible, terrible. I will never dare to let anyone see me, not even my son. No, not even him. I am ruined. I am ugly forever." She fell back into her big chair and started to cry. The doctor took a chair, sat down next to her, and said gently, "Come, let me see. I assure you it is nothing. With a small treatment, I will make it all go away." She shook her head, saying no without speaking. He tried to touch her veil, but she grabbed it with both hands so hard that her fingers went through it. He kept talking to her to calm her down. "Come on, you know that I remove those ugly marks every time, and they are gone after I treat them. If you don't let me see them, I can't help you." "I don't mind you seeing them," she whispered. "But I don't know that man with you. He is also a doctor, who can help you even better than I can." She then let him uncover her face, but her fear, her emotions, and her shame made her face and neck turn red. She looked down, turned her face to the right, then to the left to avoid our eyes, and said, "Oh, it is so painful to let myself be seen like this. It is terrible. Isn't it? Isn't it terrible?" I looked at her in surprise because there was nothing on her face. Not a mark, not a spot, not a scar. She turned to me, still looking down, and said, "It was while taking care of my son that I caught this terrible disease, sir. I saved him, but I am now ugly. I gave up my beauty for him, for my poor child. But I did my duty. My conscience is at peace. If I suffer, only God knows." The doctor took out a small paintbrush from his coat pocket. "Let me fix it," he said. "I will make it all better." She held out her right cheek, and he began to touch it lightly with the brush, as if he were putting tiny points of paint on it. He did the same with her left cheek, then with her chin and forehead, and then said, "See, there is nothing there now, nothing at all." She picked up the mirror, looked at her reflection with deep, eager attention, trying hard to find something, then sighed. No, it hardly shows at all. I am very grateful to you. The doctor stood up. He bowed to her, led me out, and followed me. As soon as he locked the door, he said, "Here is the story of this unhappy woman. Her name is Madame Hermet. She was once very beautiful, very proud of her looks, and loved life a lot. She was one of those women who only have their beauty and the love of being admired to keep them happy and guide them in life. She always worried about staying beautiful, taking care of her skin, her hands, her teeth, and every part of her body that people could see. This took up all her time and attention. She became a widow with one son. The boy was raised like all children of very beautiful and admired women. She loved him very much. He grew up and she got older. I don't know if she saw the signs of aging coming. Did she, like many others, look for hours at her skin, once so smooth and clear, now starting to wrinkle slightly, with tiny lines that would get deeper day by day, month by month? Did she cry desperately on her knees, with her forehead on the ground, and pray to God, who makes people old after giving them youth, and who gives them beauty only to take it away quickly? She probably went through these tortures because this is what happened. One day, when she was 35, her son, who was 15, got sick. He stayed in bed, and no one could figure out why he was sick or what kind of sickness it was. His tutor, a priest, stayed with him and hardly ever left his side, while Madame Hermet came in the morning and evening to ask how he was. She would come into the room in the morning in her nightgown, smiling, all powdered and perfumed, and would ask as she entered the door, "Well, George, are you better?" The big boy, with his face red and swollen from fever, would reply, "Yes, little mother, a little better." She would stay in the room for a few seconds, look at the bottles of medicine, purse her lips as if she was saying "phew," and then suddenly exclaim, "Oh, I forgot something very important," and would run out of the room, leaving behind a smell of nice perfumes. In the evening she would come in a fancy dress, in a big hurry, because she was always late, and she had just enough time to ask, "Well, what does the doctor say?" The priest would reply, "He has not yet given an opinion, madam." But one evening the priest replied, "Madam, your son has the smallpox." She screamed in terror and ran out of the room. The next morning, when her maid came into her room, she immediately noticed a strong smell of burnt sugar, and she found her mistress with wide-open eyes, her face pale from lack of sleep, and shivering with fear in her bed. As soon as the shutters were opened, Madame Hermet asked, "How is George?" "Oh, not at all well today, madam. She did not get up until noon. She ate 2 eggs with a cup of tea, as if she were sick herself. Then she went to a pharmacy to ask about ways to prevent catching smallpox. She did not come home until dinner time. She came back with lots of medicine bottles and shut herself in her room, where she used disinfectants. The priest was waiting for her in the dining room. As soon as she saw him, she asked with a worried voice, "Well, no improvement. The doctor is very worried." She began to cry and could not eat anything because she was so worried. The next day, as soon as it was light, she sent someone to ask about her son, but there was no improvement. She spent the whole day in her room with little fires burning strong-smelling things. Her maid said that you could hear her sighing all evening. She spent a whole week like this, only going out for an hour or two in the afternoon to get some fresh air. She now sent someone to ask about her son every hour and would cry when the news was bad. On the morning of the 11th day, the priest came into her room. He looked very serious and pale. Without sitting down, he said, "Madam, your son is very ill and wants to see you." She fell to her knees, crying, "Oh my God! Oh my God! I would never dare. My God! My God! Help me!" The priest continued, "The doctor does not think he will get better, madam, and George is asking for you." Then he left the room. 2 hours later, as the boy, feeling he was dying, asked for his mother again, the priest went to her. He found her still on her knees, still crying and saying, "I will not. I will not. I am too scared. I will not." He tried to talk to her, to encourage her, to lead her. But he only made her have a nervous breakdown that lasted a while and made her scream. The doctor came in the evening. He was told about her fear and said he would make her come to her son, either willingly or by force. He tried everything to convince her. When he grabbed her around the waist to carry her to her son's room, she held onto the door so tightly that they couldn't pull her away. When they let her go, she fell at the doctor's feet, begging for forgiveness and saying she was a terrible person. She cried, "Oh, he is not going to die. Tell me that he is not going to die, I beg you. Tell him that I love him, that I worship him." The boy was dying. He knew he only had a few moments left and begged for his mother to come and say goodbye. He somehow knew everything and said, "If she is too scared to come into the room, ask her to come to the balcony by my window so I can see her at least, so I can look at her one last time, even if I can't kiss her." The doctor and the priest went to her again and told her, "You won't be in any danger. There will be a pane of glass between you and him." She agreed, covered her head, and took a bottle of smelling salts. She took 3 steps onto the balcony, then suddenly covered her face with her hands and moaned, "No, no, I can't look at him. Never. I am too ashamed, too scared. No, I can't." They tried to pull her along, but she held onto the railings with both hands and cried so loudly that people in the street looked up. The dying boy waited, his eyes on the window, hoping to see his mother's sweet, beloved face one last time. He waited a long time and then night came. He turned over with his face to the wall and was silent. When day broke, he was dead. The next day she went crazy.